Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining our first PPS live stream event this morning on our Facebook page. Our company, Pinnacle People Solutions, is a organisation that specialises in supporting regionally based small to medium enterprises and not-for-profit organisations in respect of everything to do with their HR. So this morning I wanted to start with a interactive Q&A on everything that you want and need to know in respect of COVID-19 during this particular period as an employer. We've had a deluge of inquiries coming from small to medium enterprises, regionally based organisations and community organisations asking what they do in these incredibly changing times. So I'd like to talk with you this morning about some fundamental elements as employers that you need to be aware of. This is my first time doing a live stream. We will be doing these daily at 9:15, and we will be providing daily updates on any changes that are announced by government, so that employers can be completely up to date at any particular day of the week on what the impacts are for them and their obligations and options in terms of being an employer. So we're going to try and cut through all of the noise, if you like, that's happening around COVID. We will have resources coming up regularly on our Facebook page and also our website. Our website is www.pinnaclepeoplesolutions, all lowercase, all one word, .com.au, and the details will of course be on our Facebook page. So I would encourage you to ask questions. I'd like this to be as interactive as possible. I'm hoping that those questions will come up in my feed on the left here, and I will be able to see and respond to comments. If you do put those up there and I can't respond live or I need to take them on notice, I will do that, and you will have answers at tomorrow morning's live stream at 9:15. And that's what we will do moving forward. We will also be, so Tuesdays of our live stream will actually be being delivered by our registered psychologist, Jess, who will be talking about strategies and skills, etc., for maintaining mental health and well-being in these very uncertain times, both for employers, business owners, and also for you as employers supporting your employees. We will also be running other specialist topics and are open to our lovely audience to suggest to us areas that they'd like us to delve into in greater detail, and so that we can make sure that we're giving you all the information that you need in as clear and concise and simple a way as possible as we move through these very uncertain times. So today I would like to talk with you about a number of different elements that business owners need to be really aware of. Workforces are changing necessarily rapidly at the moment. And there are some fundamental things as business owners that you need to be aware of. And I recognise the enormity of the situation for a lot of businesses at the moment, some of whom are trading one day and not trading the next. Others have seized on terrific opportunities to grow and pivot and change. And others remain trading but in uncertain times, and that situation can change literally from one day to the next. Which is the reason behind this live stream every morning at 9:15. We will be collating information and understanding its impacts from the night before, in terms of any government announcements or changes to instruction at this point in time, and the impacts that that will have on businesses and their employees. And we will aim to translate that for you and provide up-to-date information every morning at 9:15. By that stage, we will have also heard from the relevant premiers and be able to add that to our live stream for employers also every morning. So in terms of your how best to respond at this point in time as an employer, and you could be an employer, as I say, who has had to stop trading, or you may be an employer whose level of business has dropped substantially, and you're going to need to look very quickly at the structure of your business, the viability of your business, etc. The first thing that we would say in terms of the changing, rapidly changing nature of the workforce and organisations at this point in time is you should have in place an epidemic and pandemic policy and procedure. Irrespective of what's happening at the moment, you remain responsible for the workplace health and wellbeing of your staff. Those obligations don't go away. So it's incredibly important that you have in place an epidemic and pandemic policy and procedure, which stipulates what staff are expected to do and what will happen and what the organisation will do in those circumstances. We can help, obviously, with any and all of the things that I'm talking about. We can provide you with specialist fit-for-purpose support if you need it. Where you have your staff reducing work hours or fundamentally changing rosters, if they're full-time or part-time, or they've been with you as a regular and systematically working casual for over 12 months, you will need to consult with them, and particularly for full-time and part-time staff, you will need to get mutual agreement as to changes to reduce hours. It may be that any existing employment contracts need to be updated, or at the very least modified by a letter that states that a certain aspect of the employment contract will be changing, but everything else will be staying the same. So you do need to make sure that you follow your obligations when you have to do those reductions. The other thing I would also say is that during this period, you can require staff to take paid leave. There are options for employers to require paid leave to be taken, and we can get into the minutiae of that in another live stream if that's something that you should that you're particularly interested in. We also have provisions in modern awards for staff to request cashing out of paid leave, and the obligations on employers in respect of those requests. I have had a number of businesses say to me that they are concerned that while they have a book entry and value for the leave accruals for their staff, they would be in a financial conundrum if they all of a sudden had to put all staff on paid leave. I would refer you to your accountant and to your bank in respect of potential additional support loans. The government has talked about providing loan guarantees. So I would talk to your financial advisors in respect of what you might be able to do to ensure that you're able to meet those obligations. I've had a couple of questions I've just seen that have come through. Just at this point in time, can I provide a list of what policies we should as employers be looking into? Yes, I absolutely can. And I will put that up on our website and our Facebook page immediately after this broadcast. I've mentioned the epidemic and pandemic policy and procedures. I will actually be also referring to working from home policies and procedures and checklists. You should have a good work health and safety policy. There's a range of things. So we will provide a list of those up on our Facebook page and our website after this live stream for you. I've also had a question. Thank you, Deb, for your question. If you have no staff but you see clients, it's still really important to have an epidemic and pandemic policy and procedures, because it stipulates how you will interact with your clients, as well as what your expectations are in terms of your staff in this kind of situation. I've had a question from Michelle. What do we do if we have specific questions? Can we email you? The answer to that question is most definitely. You can email us. The best email to use for us would be admin@pinnaclepeoplesolutions, all lowercase, all one word, .com.au. And again, we'll provide that information on our Facebook page. In addition, and that information is also available on our website. In addition, you can also private message us on our Facebook page, and we will respond to that also. In terms of the changing workforce, some of you as business owners may want to need to move quickly, potentially to stand down some or all of your staff. That is an option. And it's something, all of these options are things that can be put in place necessarily very quickly. And of course, that's necessary at this point in time with the environment changing so rapidly every 24 hours. You can also make staff redundant. That the payout that you're required to provide in terms of redundancy will depend on a number of things, not the least of which will be the number of employees. So currently under the Fair Work Act, if you have less than 15 headcount in terms of your employees, and I do mean headcount and not full-time equivalent staff, it's very important to make that distinction, then you would be obligated to pay a notice of termination as part of a redundancy of a position, but you would not be obligated to pay the weeks per years of service calculation that's part of the National Employment Standards. The period of somebody's service, their age, and the award that they may be employed under, if indeed they are covered by an award, would also impact potentially the redundancy payment and calculation. You can, of course, aside from the purposes of redundancy, you can terminate staff, and at any point that you terminate staff, following due process, of course, for any reason other than serious misconduct, you are required to pay out that staff member's accrued leave entitlements. Now, at this point in time, the most obvious one of those is annual leave. But the thing you need to be aware of in terms of whenever you're terminating the employment of a staff member is that if they have worked with you for more than 5 years, then you will also have a requirement to pay pro rata long service leave. That's certainly the case under New South Wales Long Service Leave Act. It is also the case in other states of Australia in their respective long service leave acts, but it can kick in at different service points. So obviously get in touch with us if you need advice about that, but generally it will be annual leave and long service leave that will be calculations you need to consider in a termination pay. You may be forced to look at repositioning and restructuring. Again, this can be done very quickly. The idea that it's going to take you weeks to do this, you can pivot very quickly. You do, however, have lawful workplace change and consultation obligations in accordance with the Fair Work Act and any modern awards that may apply to your staff. So it is really important to do this correctly. It's not difficult, but it is very important to put the steps in place that need to be placed in order to make sure that you're doing this properly. There are also businesses at the moment who are looking at or in the process of ramping up. There are businesses that are pivoting, that are changing their business models, necessarily changing their structures, and some that are booming in terms of needing staff and to plan to have adequate staff moving forward during this period of time. We can help you plan your workforce needs. It's incredibly important. Can you imagine if you have ambitions to circumnavigate the globe, that you plan probably to do it in something other than a tinny with a two-stroke motor? It's no different in terms of your staffing capacity and the skills and attributes you need in your business. So if you're a business that's ramping up or looks like it may be able to ramp up, or you want to move your staff from the positions they're in into another area of your business that could grow and rapidly expand in this time, we can help you with that. And also to recruit the best staff for your refocused enterprise. So there's some of the things that are happening at this moment in time in terms of the changing workforce. I'm just keeping an eye on any questions that are coming in while I'm doing this, of course. So feel free to ask them, make comments, ask questions, and I'll answer them as best I can as we move through. The next area that we've had a lot of query about that business owners need to know is about standing down staff. And the fact of the matter is that under the Fair Work Act, which is our national employment legislation that covers about 95% of Australians, actually provides provisions for employers to stand down some or all of their staff if three conditions are met. There is a stoppage of work, either partly or in full in terms of what the business would normally do. Employees cannot be usefully employed in your business, including in any alternate roles, and you can't be held responsible for the cause of the stoppage. So where businesses are being determined by government at this point to be non-essential businesses and required to close or to only be able to trade in minimal prescriptive ways, then it's very likely that these three conditions will be met. It may well also be likely that other businesses have seen a dramatic decrease in business that may also trigger this. What I need you to know is that if you are standing down some but not all of your staff, the decision about which staff to retain must be made in a transparently fair and equitable way. And again, it doesn't need to hold you up in terms of the actions you need to take in your business, but you should get advice about how to do it. If you're going to stand down staff, you do need to, my strong advice is that you get advice about what's going to work best for your business and that you follow all of the requisite written notifications and everything that you need to give people around any of these matters. During stand down, it is important to remember that staff remain employed by you and continue to accrue benefits such as leave and service. So even though they're on a period of unpaid leave from your business, effectively during a stand down, they are still your employees for the purposes of accruing service entitlements and leave entitlements. So hypothetically, if you were to stand down some or all of your employees for 6 months and then re-engage them at the end of that time, they would have had 6 months more, would have had continuous service with you or be deemed to have that for the time that they've been stood down and would have been accruing leave over that period of time also. What we've been told by government is that employees that are stood down are also going to be entitled to be considered for job seeker allowance, and so they can technically still be in your employees, but potentially qualify for job seeker allowance. And I'll give a little bit more detail about that in a moment. One of the questions that we've had yesterday actually was, after I've stood staff down, can I bring them back for a few hours or a day here and there if we're still able to trade and we get some business in? The answer to that question, unfortunately, is no. Once you've stood staff down, you either bring them back or ultimately you might need to make them redundant. But having them back here and there is not something that you'd be able to do. What I did recommend to this business owner is that they consider a staged stand down. So as they're seeing their level of business impacted by government decisions about what businesses can continue to operate and what can't, as well as a decline in patronage associated with the numbers of people who are becoming unemployed and people tightening purse strings, etc. at the moment, my advice was to try and stand down to match what that demand is as it's changing. We can give you further advice, obviously, about that. You can also make staff redundant after a period of stand down. I've had that question. If I stand my staff down initially, can I ultimately make them redundant? The answer is yes, but the regular redundancy requirements do apply. So any of these options, you do need to make sure that you're meeting your lawful obligations. I don't pretend in any way, shape, or form for us to be finance people. You're best to talk to your accountants and financial advisors, bookkeepers, etc., in respect of the following that I'm going to tell you. But it is important to know that the government has made changes and is considering further changes to insolvent trading regulations, particularly in respect of trading while insolvent and creditor demands. Watch our Facebook page and our website. We will post more information as it becomes available, but a lot of those regulations have been relaxed. Talk to your accountant and bank about the government secured loans that are available to small business to assist. It could also be viable that you may be able to get loan assistance to assist with staff payments and other expenses. Talk to your bank about existing loans. I saw the CBA chief executive on 7:30 2 nights ago stated that all business loans held for small to medium enterprises by the CBA had been automatically exempt for the next 6 months for repayments. Now, they'd done that automatically. Not all banks necessarily will have done that, but talk to your bank about any existing business loans and the potential to freeze repayments, reduce repayments, or have repayment holiday periods. Pardon me. And talk to your landlord about rent reductions or lease holidays if you lease business premises. I do know that part of the intention of last night's National Cabinet meeting was to discuss relief for businesses and individuals in terms of some of these elements. We haven't heard anything yet, but as soon as we do, and we'll be up here every day at 9:15, we'll give you further advice in respect of that. But I certainly know those things are under further consideration at the moment. In terms of financial help for employees, if employees or sole traders lose more than 20% of their income and their fortnightly income drops below $1,100, they may be eligible for job seeker allowance and coronavirus supplement, which together total $1,100 per fortnight. The assets test for job seeker allowance has been suspended, and the spousal income test is under review. If you don't currently have a Commonwealth reference number with Services Australia, as in Centrelink, get one now. You can apply for that over the phone. Any employees and business owners who own their own homes can contact their mortgage holder about repayment reductions or repayment holiday periods. Employees and business owners who are renting can contact their landlords about rent reductions or lease holidays. As I said, that is under consideration from a regulation perspective at the National Cabinet level at this moment. If you are a landlord, please speak to your mortgage holder about repayment reductions or repayment holidays so that you can in turn help your tenants. In terms of working from home, if at this point in time, if it's possible, you should instruct or allow your employees to work from home. Now, I put a proviso on this because you need to be well aware of whatever decisions you're making about how and where and when and in what form your business is going to continue. You remain obligated to make sure under work health and safety legislation that when your employees are working for you, wherever they're working for you from, and that could be away from their usual pace of business, that you make sure that they're able to work safely and to maintain their health. You still have those obligations. So it's incredibly important in terms of any working away from a normal business site, whether it's at home or somewhere else, to establish or review your working from home policy and your procedures. We have great resources that we can share with you in terms of policy and also working from home checklists to make sure that you're meeting your lawful obligations. The other thing I think it's really important to share with you is that privacy laws also still apply. So you need to make sure that any private information that you collect and store as a business remains effectively secured during this period. Additional security may be required for remote working. So you still have all those same obligations as a business owner. So it's incredibly important that you make sure that you continue to observe those. If your business is one where your products or services cannot be delivered by working from home or working remotely, and assuming that your business is still able to operate, you need to enforce and communicate strict hygiene and participation practices across your business. As I said, having an epidemic and pandemic policy and associated policies in the business that stipulate things like cleanliness, housekeeping, and all of those things should be in place. You would also be expected to put up notices, send emails, make sure everybody's aware of what their obligations are around hygiene and participation practices. This is particularly relevant for vulnerable industries such as health and logistics. You also need to make sure to enforce spatial distancing. So that's 1.5 metres between people, or in one room you must have a maximum of 4 metres, or at the moment, 4 metres squared per person in a room. You need to make sure that you've got soap in bathrooms, hand sanitizer available as much as possible. And I guess the question that we've had numerous times now and will continue to have is, what happens if your business cannot continue to operate in the current restrictions? Then you need to look at whether your business can survive in a restructured way on a skeleton staff, at least for a period of time. Do you actually need to stand down all of your staff? Is your intention to try and reinvigorate your business over a period of time and ride this out? Or are you in a situation where you simply need to make some or all of your staff redundant? Any or all of those options, and there's a whole range of other ones that might come into play for you depending on the nature of your business and factoring in your lawful obligations as an employer. We can help you with that. The other question that's come up recently is bear with me a moment. I'm getting some questions in, so I'm trying to do two things at once, and that's not necessarily successful for me all the time. We also have work health and safety checklists. I've had somebody say, do you have anything in that regard? And the answer to that is absolutely. So we can provide support in that regard. The other thing that has come up very recently, particularly with the New South Wales Premier's announcement that for parents with school children, the edict is if you can keep them at home at all possible, that's preferred, but children can go to school and schools are open at this point in time, in New South Wales at least, if they need to go to school. One of the questions I've had this week is, my employee has chosen to remove their children from school while schools remain open. Can they take their personal carers leave to look after them? The answer to that question is yes. The Premier has not required that all children remain home yet, but has definitely said that that is the preferred instruction. So on that basis, if you've got staff who have accrued personal carers leave and they want it to take it to look after their children, then they are entitled to do that. Obviously, working from home whilst also caring for children is extremely challenging. And our team, bless them, we've got staff who have to try and juggle that at this point in time. Obviously, working on site and finding childcare during school holidays and school shutdowns is also extremely challenging on a normal basis. You need to give consideration as to whether you will allow staff who have children at home to also work from home. You can also require them to take carers leave, paid or unpaid, if they must be at home to care for children. Okay, so we've had a lot of questions about medical certificates on return from illness to businesses and what the business obligation is to make sure that their staff are safe and healthy and continue to be during this period. What I would say to you is, if an employee has been off work sick or tested positive for COVID-19, you can and should require medical clearance from a GP prior to their return to work, that they are healthy and fit to return to work. If an employee, however, has been undergoing a 14-day isolation period due to COVID-19 exposure, New South Wales Health has said that doctors are unable to issue medical clearance certificates because there is no test to predict if symptom-free people will become unwell. GPs can provide a certificate confirming that on the date of assessment, a patient is symptom-free and has no clinical features of viral infection. Up until yesterday, COVID-19 tests would not be done unless you had a fever or respiratory illness and in the last fortnight you'd been in a close contact of a coronavirus case. You'd come back from overseas or you'd been on a cruise ship. There has now been a new category introduced, however, called suspect cases. Under the changes that have come in yesterday, you can be tested if 2 or more other people test positive in an aged care facility, a military setting, a boarding school, prison, detention centre, remote Indigenous community, or somewhere else where there has been an outbreak. It is now at the GP or clinician's discretion to test you if you have symptoms of COVID-19 in a geographical area where there is a higher risk of community transmission. In short, that's an area where more people are testing positive, for example. Furthermore, healthcare, aged care and residential care workers can now get a test if they have a fever or respiratory illness. So all of these changes to the qualifications for COVID testing came in yesterday. And finally, if you've been admitted to hospital with a fever and respiratory symptoms, you can get a test for coronavirus now, as of yesterday. One of the questions that has come up, how do I meet my health and safety obligations without a medical clearance for returning staff? Now, given that the testing regime has expanded, you've got more options. But at the very least, if somebody's had to do a 14-day isolation with no symptoms in that time, you can get the staff member to provide a certification confirming that on the date of assessment, the patient is symptom-free and has no clinical features of viral infection. If anybody else has been absent from the work environment from any kind of communicable or infectious illness, whether it's a common cold, a flu or whatever, you may legitimately request as an employer that they provide a certificate to say that they are well and able to return to the work environment. Okay, I'm 5 minutes over the half an hour that we allocated for our live stream today. I've had some questions which I've aimed to answer, and I'm inviting you to please provide any further questions either in Messenger on Facebook or to admin@pinnaclepeoplesolutions.com.au. And I do see that my lovely team have put up a message with that information in the Messenger screen. So hopefully people can all see that and use that. We are here to support you. We are going to be running Facebook live stream Q&A sessions at 9:15 every morning from today. This is our inaugural one. Thank you so much for bearing with us as we do this. It won't just be my face that you'll be seeing every day. We will have other people talking about particular areas of specialty that will help support you and your business as we navigate these incredibly difficult and unpredictable times. But we are here for you, and we want to be able to get the information out there as quick as we can to employers every day as things change. You can reach out to us in the meantime, 1300 856 231. This will be recorded, is being recorded, I should say, and will be up on our Facebook page. We'll have a whole heap of resources going up today on our website, easily digestible fact sheets and guides for employers during this time. And we are here to support our regionally based employers and our communities. And if there's particular topics that you would really like us to delve into in greater detail, please message us or email us. We will be responding to our community in terms of, our regional communities in terms of what they would like to know more about. So I'd invite you to do that. And look, stay safe and stay well. Don't hesitate to ring us. We are available to our communities 24/7 at this point in time. So do not hesitate to use our contact information, and we will do our very best to assist you as quickly as we can. So I will sign off now. I don't have any other live questions at this point in time, but tomorrow morning, I hope to see you all back here at 9:15. We're only slotted for half an hour, so we will answer any questions that have come in overnight. And make sure to wash your hands frequently and regularly. Stay home if you possibly can. We're all trying to flatten that curve. All right. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.